Okay, Kap, welcome to the first class of the Emerging Technologies for Lifelong Learning. Okay, so this class, let me start by sharing a screen. Okay, so this class hopefully will be quite different from your previous learning experience. And so today, okay, we're going to have a bit of, I guess, introduction, not only to the class, but sort of like to the philosophy of learning. Well, starting from Basai itself, all the way down to what this class is all about. Okay, let's move the recorded. Okay, got it. Okay, so a little bit of introduction, and what have we got? We got to introduce a little bit of me and you, right? Me and you and the class. But let's start a little bit with, let's go with the syllabus. Let's start with the syllabus first, all right? Now, there's a bit of asymmetry here, meaning that I have been your age, but you haven't been my age, or I have been in your position, you haven't been in my position. So I'm going to take the liberty to guess a little bit what it's like to be in your position. And and I don't have any empirical data except from my own experience. So my experience tells me that, well, when I go to a class, I actually don't even look at syllabus. Okay, and a lot of times it turns out the syllabus is more useful than you think. It's not just for administrative filing. So let's put it up. Let's spend a little bit of time on it. Okay, so we can kind of read this together, right? This is a directed self-learning seminar-based course. Okay, so right away, it is a directed process, meaning I direct the process, but it's the process of self-learning. Okay, it's not a process of me teaching. Okay, and it's based a little bit on seminar, also a bit of quite a bit of quote unquote talk and lecturing, but the idea is based on self-learning. Okay, it's designed to wake you guys up, awaken you to an ever-evolving. So it's not just evolving now or evolved or the most recent, but ever-evolving set of emerging technologies that is likely to have that are likely to have the greatest impact on your professional lives. Okay, so this is sort of like in a way our best guess of the areas of emerging technologies that is going to be relevant for the coming decades. Okay, presumably this will change. Okay, we'll get it wrong. We'll get it mostly right in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, but afterward, all bets are off. Okay, and that's where the lifelong learning bit comes in, because it's not just teaching you about the emerging technologies and that's it, you're set for life. It's equipping you with the capability to keep up with the then emerging technologies. So the emerging technology set in 20 years time, you still will be equipped to keep a pace of that. That's the idea. Okay, but of course we don't just start with a vague sense of emerging technology. We have to begin somewhere, and so we begin with the set of emerging technologies that we can see today. We can scan the radar, the scope of knowledge and technology, and see what's really out there. Okay, so for example, it ranges from things like quantum computing that some of you may or may not have heard about, human-machine interface. Some of it is already part of your daily lives. Optimal control, okay, cybernetics, computational bioinformatics, nanotechnology. Some of this, it's already affecting you. For example, some of you have been taking the mRNA vaccine. That's really result from computational bioinformatics research, and of course a lot of basic genomic research. Nanobots, right? Soft robotics, which is something you probably not experienced or had the opportunity to play with. I mean, a lot of you have played with robotics, you know, like Lego robotics or Arduino-driven robotics, but certainly soft robotics is an emerging area. Things about renewable energy and ecological rehabilitation. So this is not only about technology that minimize the carbon footprint or ecological footprint, but literally try to rehabilitate the earth. Okay, because this, in a way, is what's going to be in your future. Okay, my generation, we've been sort of like exploiting the ecology, right, the environment, and that's sort of like leaving a lot of junks in the environment for your generation. So it's not only enough for your generation to stop contributing. Chances are a lot of technologies will be designed around rehabilitating or reversing the damage that my generation left for your generation. Okay, so the word here would be rehabilitation rather than just ecologically sound means of production, for example. Okay, so even though we will start with we'll have all these topics discussed, I guess in a seminar-based format with guest lecturer and whatnot, the aim is to equip you guys with the skill, right? Equip you guys with the lifelong learning skill, right? Hopefully ignite your passion for intellectual pursuit, right? And then bring to realization, that means the role of responsibilities, again, because our generation, my generation, has made a little bit of a mess for this biosphere, not the planet per se, because you know the planet's okay, it's the biosphere that's kind of messed up. So your role and your responsibility is to harness the power of technologies to affect positive change. Okay, and some of you may actually develop some kind of instinct. What I mean by instinct is the feel of sort of like, I get a feeling that over the next 5 years, this area is going to be big, or this area is going to transform, it's going to be a game changer, or it's going to disrupt. Okay, so to keep a pace with all the disruption, yes, you have to keep, you know, maybe reading the scientific breakthrough or blogs and so forth. But certainly, after you get become experienced with digesting this sort of exposition on scientific discovery and technological breakthrough, you may get an idea, start to get an instinct of, wait a minute, this is where the world of technology is heading. It's sort of like the disruption is likely to come from the right side as opposed to the left side of this approach or whatever. Okay. So now a major well, I am guessing not a major component, but one big component would be based on using sort of mathematical software that I assume you have installed that would visualize, right? Help visualize the experiments, statistical, computational models, things like, you know, say computational biology. You would see, say, described to you in an advanced technology discussion forum, but then you would like to see, well, what exactly do you mean by manipulating or simulating the biochemical connection, right? So things like a powerful Mathematica, which is really an analytical, not just programmatic language. It's also symbolic language. It helps you visualize and sort of like get a feel of what this thing is. So you can play maybe firsthand with genomic sequence, you know, something like that. So not in a chemical lab, but in a visualization, in a 3D visualization world, that sort of thing. Okay, now a major part of this is video documentaries, right? So literally, I would be asking, or even assigning you guys to watch YouTube, okay? but not just watch and be entertained. And today we'll go a little bit about how you actually milk YouTube exposition as a starting point for more in-depth survey, more in-depth exploration. Okay, and also some scientific publication, right? That is like, you know, the people who do the YouTube channels, they're not just reading script, they're writing the script. The scripts are written from, maybe they write it from a scientific blog that they've been reading. But then people who wrote the scientific blog, they actually read the original paper, the scientific discovery. Okay, so these are, I guess, science journalists or technology journalists, and they don't just read blog pages; they actually read real technical scientific publication. Okay, and they make, you know, synopsis and summary and so forth. And you know, whenever possible, if it's if you're up to it, you're up to the task, maybe you can write mathematical applet to demonstrate the concept that you learned. So that's really what this course is designed to do. Okay. Now let's look a little bit at the coverage. Okay. Now, okay. Before we go to the coverage, again, this is sort of like, you know, sort of like the synopsis we saw just now and I went over, but this is kind of like a schematic way of organizing. This is part of bite-sized planning of what individual course delivers. Okay, so there's individual learning outcomes and design element to a course. So this is a little bit more details, like, you know, what are we going to be using and so forth. But again, the idea is, if the main objective is to have you awaken to the ever-evolving set of emerging technologies and have a passion to explore, right? The learning outcome is what? Well, first of all, you have to have a sort of like a well-rounded knowledge. Okay, you know, these are best. By the way, these are sort of like learning outcome that is from the bite-sized catalog of learning outcome, as it were. Okay, so, you know, you would the reason we put this thing there is to emphasize that, well, there's a lot more to the learning outcome than just being aware of the technology. This being ethical and being moral, that's quite important, because you will come to appreciate the moral and ethical implication of all technologies. Okay, old and new, emerging and dormant and whatever. Okay, and then of course you need to have some kind of communication skills. Okay, ability to acquire knowledge and so forth. In fact, we'll cover a little bit about what you have to deliver in terms of student project in this class. But the final output, I guess, one of the final output would be like, you have to maybe create, you know, like a YouTube type exposition on what you learn in this class type thing. Okay, so if you think about it, this class will be kind of partitioned into two parts. So the first part is a little bit about, you know, philosophy of learning, your perspective on learning. How do you approach new subject, new topics? How do you develop the data visualization skill that helps you understand, or prototyping and so forth? The concept of rigorous mathematical thinking, the scientific discipline, the idea of liberal arts education, and so forth. You learn about, you know, maybe history of scientific technological innovation and the social disruption or side effect, as it were, right? So those are sort of like here, around here, okay? But then again, because there is a generational task involved, that, you know, your task is going to be subject, well, the task is going to be faced with sustainability challenges, ecological, you know, environmental challenges. So the second half of the first half, as it were, would maybe sort of like raise the awareness, to sort of like bring into the discussion the concept of sustainable development, sufficiency economy, and what it means to try to develop technology set specifically to tackle challenges of your generation. Oops. Yeah. Now, and then I guess halfway through, then we start to sort of like have, like a walk through individual technology set. So this is sort of like what I plan as a timeline, but obviously, some of these will involve external guest lecturer, and they may have a timeline requirement. So we might need to shuffle this around. This is sort of like I haven't confirmed any of these dates yet, but the area would be, around genomic, transcriptomic, proteomic, basically molecular biology, okay? And that has to do with genetic engineering implication, but also, other areas like immunology and so forth, okay? The area of nanotechnology and material science, okay? That's also very important. We have a Hamyak for that. Maybe introduction of AI robotics and autonomous vehicle. Might invite, say, Dr. Tana from PTT EP Exploration and Production. They have their spin-off into what's called robotics, AI robotics venture. Then we have this area of cryptography, which is really the baseline of blockchain and digital currency. Okay, so this is not about Bitcoin trading. Bitcoin trading is just basically treating Bitcoin as a speculative asset class. You can have speculative asset class about anything. Okay, so you can have speculative trading on Bitcoin. You can have speculative trading on baseball cards. You can have speculative tradings on maybe classic automobiles or something. Okay, so that's just treating Bitcoin as something that you have a speculative market. This is about deeper technology that, first of all, underwrites the formation or the platform of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of that smart contract and so forth. Okay, and also, this is going to be something that is going to be like a game changer. Okay, quantum computing and massively parallel computing. I actually gave a talk. I think it was actually quite many years ago. I think it was 2018. I think back when I was at SCB, we had like a kind of a technology exploration day, as it were. So we talk about disruption technology that would disrupt the banking industry. So certainly digital currency was there, networking and AI and so forth, machine learning. So all this was a disruptive technologies for banking industry. But quantum computing is actually going to disrupt all the disruptor. So the title of my talk was actually quantum computing was. If I recollect, it's something like disruptive technology disruptor or something like that. Okay, so technology that disrupt what you see as disruptive technologies today. Okay, so some of you may be familiar with the concept of quantum computing to hack cryptography. That's really a small part, and it's not really that powerful aspect. Okay, there's a lot more power within that quantum computing paradigm. So and then we leave. Maybe I would move timeline a little bit. Maybe just need one session for project presentation, or I might move have some time for project workshop. Now the workshop idea would a lot depends on whether or not we can actually have in-class interaction. Okay, workshop format doesn't really work if I'm just sitting here talking to a computer and we just looking at a screen. Okay, so it doesn't really work. So this is going to be a little bit fluid, again, subject to availability of the guest lecturer and subject to the COVID restriction. okay? And so the rest, I think, now, these are really good recommended reading, okay? You may not have access to this, but I certainly have most of these as a personal PDF file, okay? So what I might do, we certainly, I guess, perhaps for copyright reason, the PDF is for private use reading. So I'm not going to sort of, put on the course bill or something, but certainly I can share with you guys individual books, PDF copies for individual copies to you guys in the line group. You just copy that and just read it. Okay, so there's a lot of I highlight the area in gray so you can see that. So this is about emerging technology itself, about learning, digital economy, where you are, and so forth. These are all very good. Okay. Also, STEAM education about what Basai partly is here to address. Then we go, certain technologies, so machine intelligence, food science, and knowledge, health and medicine, waste. So this is to prepare you guys. And I assume that you're not going the same track. Some of you are going for sustainability tracks. Some of you are going for smart cities. Some of you are going to come to my track, which is applied digital intelligence. Okay, and so forth. Okay, so we'll see how that pans out. Now, because this class is relatively small, we are going to today take a little bit of a survey, like you go around, not just introducing yourself, sort of like the topic of your interest. So for example, let's imagine that one of you is really big on emerging technologies that has to do with agricultural, sort of like agriculture 2.0, that sort of thing. Okay, then you can contact me and I can send you this the PDF copy of this book and so forth, right? In the meantime, this is really good, okay? Compilation list. So you can double click on this. Basically, these are all playlists, okay? These are guys that on YouTube, and I do a lot of compilation, academic list compilation of my own, but these are not just compilation, these are actually producers. So they actually produce their own videos, and some of the top ones that you'll be using today. For example, in the discussion today, we'll go to Seeker, and I think today I might talk a little bit about Just Have a Think and Veritasium. 3 Blue 1 Brown is a lovely, excellent YouTube channel producing some of the best intuitive explanation of theoretical mathematical concept, but I might not cover that today. Some of this, Science Magazine, Real Engineering, these are all very good. Wired, Fox, of course, TED-Ed. TED-Ed is a little bit more sort of like 3-5 minutes education kind of thing. It's a bit longer, and if you guys are really up to it, Lex Friedman has a lot of podcasts that interview real breakthrough scientists. Okay, but the session lasts like 2 hours long or something like that. And so I make my own playlist of technology, biology, medicine. These are maybe 3 areas that you guys can sort of like start playing around with. Okay, so that takes care of the syllabus. Okay, here syllabus, and right, the tools. Well, what kind of tools we have? You guys are from a generation, I think, that grew up going to class expecting to see PowerPoint, and I think that's a little bit of a, well, PowerPoint is good, okay, and I've used that a lot in my professional life. In fact, just for fun, let's go to, let's see my early works, and let's just see. You know, I've done a lot of. Let's see how many PowerPoint. Gosh, it's gazillion, right? Well, the point about PowerPoint is two things. It's a little bit convenient, right? It's convenient. It's like you write it once and you use it a bunch, okay? So maybe, so PowerPoint, write once, use a bunch, okay? Which means that I just write one set of slides, and what you do is, oops, sorry. What you do is what's called talker slide. Okay? So basically, I just write one set of slides and I use it every year or something like that. And you know, a lot of professional educators, teachers do that, which is good, But I kind of like prefer the chalkboard method. So this is old school. This is where, you know, in my undergraduate years, say when I was your age, okay, go in, be a lecturer coming in. So let's say it's a class in quantum mechanics, okay. He doesn't come up with a set of slides. Actually, just walk in with a piece of chalk, or actually walks in empty-handed because we have piece of chalk, and just from the top of his head, just writes out the whole lecture. Okay, just write out the whole lecture. Now, not only does that demonstrate, you know, his depth of knowledge, that he can just recall it just like that. What's good about it is that it's very interactive, in a sense that once a student, say, asks question or steer the inquiry into different topics, can actually generate a new set of notes just on the spot. Now, this is the opposite of what a PowerPoint-based presentation. What it does, and this is something that you guys are not aware of, is it sort of like linearize the narrative. Yeah? Why is this important for you to recognize? Okay, well, you may not realize this now, but originally PowerPoint was a marketing communication tool. Okay, it wasn't meant, okay, or originally it wasn't used for teaching. It literally was used for marketing. What's good about ability to linearize the narrative is that you automatically engineer a captive audience. Okay? So you try to engineer a captive audience. Because why? Because one slide goes to the next. So for example, okay, slide 1, okay, convince audience you have this problem. Okay, that's what you do. By the time you go to last slide, we have the solution. Okay? So first slide, let's say first slide, we have this problem. Now, actually, there's a lot of forking in between. Okay, you may not just have this problem; you may have many problems, right? And there are many solutions. There are many methodologies. By the time you get to the last slide, the person pitching the project or whatever is giving you the solution. So that's sort of like the captive audience nature. So in your final presentation, even though I will not use PowerPoint as a key method of exposition here, you might actually want to do that for your project because you actually want to pitch your project. So you want to linearize the narrative. So you use that, but in terms of education, I'll try to use that sparingly. Okay, so it's old school. It's spontaneous, and responsive. In other words, it's responsive to for example, let's say my professor could be talking about derivation of a Schrodinger equation. Okay, once you get to the point where he gets to the Schrodinger equation, takes a survey amongst the students of how comfortable individual students are with respect to partial differential equation, and which aspect, or because partial differential equation have different complexity, he can make a little sidetrack into sort of like the mathematical machinery needed to understand Schrodinger equation, and then go back to the main lecture and come, that sort of thing. So it's very responsive to the student. Now, obviously, if we're doing this via Zoom, I'm not going to be all that responsive because knowing you guys, especially Thai students, are very laid back, passive. So you're not going to be hitting me with questions a lot. Okay, that's from my experience. But once we get to the class, if you have a meeting, it's like a face-to-face, I will actually sort of force you out of your comfort zone. So you actually have to be voicing yourself a bit more. Okay. By the way, 2 of you still haven't turned on the video. The class attendance will be based on video, not just you're logging in. Okay. So you will not get attendance point if you're not you don't have the video on. Okay. Right. The tools I use a lot would be mind map. Now, mind map is, in a way, is non-linear. It's good because it's non-linear, but it's not linear because it does what? It does allow you to do this kind of forking, right? So it's not A, B, C, D. It's A, B, B1, D1, 1, and so it comes back to B and go that sort of thing. Okay, but it's still non-linear, but still somewhat sequential. Yeah? So in a way, it's sort of like processing from left to right, that sort of thing. It doesn't do this kind of cross idea very well. This thing goes to that thing goes to this, and so forth. But it's a very good tool that we use. Mathematica, okay. So first of all, it's analytical engine. We don't use that capability here. It is sort of like a universal language for computational tool. Computational engine. Okay. And it's good for, let's see. Okay, so it's these 2 aspects that's relevant for our class. Okay, so this thing is what okay. Computational intelligence. So this is relevant for machine learning, artificial intelligence. Now, a lot of time I'm typing. So this is like mimicking me writing on the board. I would try to occasionally, have this kind of just kind of drawing, but okay. But most of for text, I'll try to keep it here. That way, we have it in India as well. So this is good for or machine learning, let's say. Actually, scientific computation can come first. Computation. Yeah. Now, visualization is relevant for this class. Visualization. Visualization, interactivity, and I would put a bit more prototyping. Okay. This is, okay. So this guy is for somebody else. So for us, we'll kind of use this for this sort of thing. PowerPoint, I already say, so the slides. Right. So those are the tools that we'll kind of be using for this class. Okay. Expectation. Well, let's do this. How about expectation? Well, there's two expectations I have. This is something that we can discuss, and actually, we should do this for the first class, but I would prefer to do it when we have person-to-person interaction. So it's a little bit unrealistic to do this kind of interaction with students on Zoom. Okay, I've tried, but doesn't seem to work. Well, anyway, there are two things that forms expectation. It's what you should get out of the class, intellectually, experientially. In a way, this is more from your perspective. Okay, so more from students. Okay. And this is more from instructor. And what you produce as evidence of learning and growth. Okay, so it's sort of like saying today is the 13th of January. Okay, 15 class later, you actually have learned something and you have grown intellectually. Okay, you are more capable of self-learning. You're more capable of picking up background concepts that is required to understand a new topic. So a new topic of technology requires this kind of background. You can maybe get an initial idea of what this new technology is, say quantum computing, but then the background idea is you need to know about the spin properties or whatever of quantum mechanics. Or maybe you have to dig a little bit deeper in that to make yourself comfortable with the idea of quantum superposition and so forth, right? So this is the idea of you have intellectual growth, okay, and maturity and so forth. So this is more an evidence of what I expect from you, okay? Right. Now, well, there's another thing. Oops. There's expectation, and this is what is an education. But maybe I would put it under expectation. I'd say under alignment. This is sort of philosophy of learning. Okay, philosophy of learning. I have to talk a little bit about this, but this is very important. I have what's called pedagogical 4, meaning there are 4 roles that I'm going to talk briefly. Okay, so let's say, and okay, there are four people. Let's say 4 persons. One is professor, and one's a professor. The guy's an educator. The other guy is a teacher. The other guy is a tutor. Now, a professor, what does he do? He professes. What does it mean by professors? What it means is that he elucidates, because know what elucidate means? It's not just explaining, it's shining light. Let me go. So I'm going to do something very non-linear, and I tend to do that a lot. Okay, so I have to keep up. You have to be mentally alert for this class. Let's see. There are basic reference website that I tend to have ready. So almost like a startup screen. You know, if I were you, I would use this as a startup screen. Obviously, Wikipedia is useful, thesaurus, but this one you probably not seen or used before, but I have one here. Okay, so for example, instead of looking up, well, I can look up dictionary, right? Elucidate, meaning, okay? And that will get you to definition and dictionary and so forth, right? Or you can go to thesaurus. That's the one I use a lot. Okay, so this is one. Okay, expound, get so forth. But one thing I really like to encourage you to do when I use a specific term is actually go to etymology. Okay, and this gives you the root concept and evolution of concept associated with each word. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about that later. But anyway, so let's go back. What does the professor do? He elucidates. Now, I'm gonna give like three things. Okay, so what does he elucidate? Theory. Okay. Okay. Now, theory, note, not hypothesis. Theory, not same as hypothesis. Okay. Now, I'm going to make a segue because you are. It's not just you learning for yourself. You actually have to graduate as a Basai student, as a Basai graduate. Okay. So if you don't know the difference between theory and hypothesis, you don't deserve to get the diploma from Chulalongkorn. Well, you don't deserve to get high school diploma, but you can get high school diploma. You don't deserve to get undergraduate bachelor's degree if you don't know the difference between theory and hypothesis, right? Okay. Now, having said that, you will say, people will say, I have a theory. Okay, this is common usage in English. I have a theory that, and usually what follows is actually a hypothesis, not a theory. Okay, so in common English language, yes, you can get away with it. Professional journalists get away with it all the time. Okay, but you shouldn't. Okay, so professor elucidate theory. Okay, basically well-founded fact that is proven by certain degree of confidence. It's proven mathematically, it's proven empirically, it's proven with induction. Okay, so proof. Okay, so proof can be mathematical. Okay, can be empirical, can be logical, right? And logical, certainly you can have deductive, right? You can inductive and adjunctive. I'm just gonna put this as a side comment. Okay, but anyway, so that's what a professor does. Professor also not individual application amounts with an S. In other words, not talking about individual application, but literally the art and science of applying. Okay? But art and science applying theory. Theory. Okay. Now I'm not going to talk very much about it. Okay. And the reason foundation is sort of like ready to serve as is further. Okay. Okay. So that's what a professor does. Okay. That's what a professor does. Now, this is what I'm not doing here. Okay. This is not what I'm doing. Okay. Let me tell you what else I'm not doing. Well, mostly I'm doing combination of all this, but I'll tell you what else I'm not doing. What does a tutor do? Well, a tutor delivers something. Okay. What is it? He delivers exercise, right? Gives you exercise to do, right? Gives you technique, right? And it also gives you correction. So, you know, you get something wrong, you say, well, that's not right. It's not right. So, okay, that's what a tutor does. What does the teacher do? The teacher does this. The teacher imparts. Okay, so this word again, you might look at etymology online. What does she impart? Impart certainly knowledge, meaning specific pieces of knowledge. Okay, so for example, carbon has ordinary, has how many protons? Guys, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on. Okay. Oh boy. How did you get past admission? How many protons does carbon have? Oh boy, that's very sad. Okay. Okay. Knowledge, right? Well, that knowledge is a specific piece that, you know, basically it's based on theoretical foundation and so forth. But it's also, the teacher is supposed to impart understanding of state knowledge. It's two different things. Imparting a knowledge and imparting understanding of that is a different thing. Okay? So what does it mean for carbon to have how many protons? Okay. Okay. What does it mean for carbon to have this many protons? How about, well, let me, I give you a guess. Okay, so impart understanding, impart knowledge. What else does the teacher impart? Teacher impart progression. In other words, it imparts a sense of going from one knowledge set to the other, and to an approximation. This is also what I'm doing in this class. You have to show a progress from knowing nothing, say, about emerging technologies and how to study, analyze, to maybe have a more capability. So there's you have to impart this. Okay. Now, what I'm doing mostly is this in this class. Okay. Now, in my, say, big data analytics, I do a lot of this and maybe some of this. Okay, a little bit of that as well. Okay, but mostly this. In this class, I'm doing this job. I'm putting on my educator hat. Okay, what does an educator do? He furnishes a few things. First of all, he furnishes a schema. Okay, this is sort of like organizing principle Okay. In understanding. It's a little bit like that. Okay, it's a way of organizing. It's sort of like what I'm doing right now. It's a little bit of schema, right? And that's what mind map tends to be good for writing schema. What else does an educator furnish you? Okay, gives you a framework. Okay, I'm gonna put that word again. Frame. Okay, so. And finally, I furnish you with library. Now, library in the old days, okay, in a typical class, a library is a book, it's a text. In this class, first of all, you already saw my library, okay? When I show you this is a library, okay? This is a library. It's not just a repository, it's curated repository. So think of it as curated repository. So why do I say that in this class, my role is an educator? Because I'm giving you a schema for thinking about emerging technologies. Okay, I will try to sort of like furnish some kind of framework for you to study, to analyze, and one of the framework is the paper that I think you have read as a preparation for this class. For example, Ph.D. Okay, you go to you watch YouTube and you just and then a survey, and then sorry, okay. So that's this game. We're gonna talk that. Okay, and many more. Okay, so you can have many more, but that's one of the framework. Okay, and then you apply to that. So again, my job is not to teach you specific knowledge, even though there's elements of that. Certainly you get from the, say if I have a guest lecture on bioinformatics, you get specific piece of knowledge, and hopefully if the guest lecturer can impart also a sense of understanding. So not just what does a DNA look like, but what does it mean to actually have your biological mechanism encoded in DNA instruction set and so forth, okay? Or knowledge of what CRISPR technology is, but not only what it is, but understand, how it came about, what is its implication, what does it mean really in the world before or the world after CRISPR technology and so forth, okay? So that would be individual bits of technology, but my job literally here is to have you have a schema for understanding, for approaching the subject, for approaching the topic, right, of emerging technologies. Maybe you have a tools, like a framework that would be like a tool set for understanding new set of technologies, right? And then I give you a starting library, sort of like maybe here, okay? And I can give you more, right? Give you more. In fact, I have my own library, my reading library, okay, all kinds of topics. Now, these are not listed like in a Dewey Decimal System. It's listed in sort of like my own emphasis. So I do a lot of emphasis on mathematics, financial risk management, operation research, computational intelligence, physics, probability, statistics. So sustainability. So these are, whole bunch of papers. So you might be interested in, say, geotherapy technology and so forth. And so these are all, my own library. So, okay. So at some point, by the way, I will have this kind of like organized and put as a Basai archive, but right now it's just sitting on my personal hard drive. Okay, right. So this would be the tools now, but certainly you're not limited to my library, right? You have the internet at your fingertips, so certainly you have your own. So that's the philosophy of this. Okay, so maybe learning journey with 4. Yeah. Yeah, it's a journey with multitude of parts and form. That's my philosophy as well. Okay, so in a way, this is a journey. It's a journey. It's one thing about journey. It can be personal. It can be communal. In other words, right now we have a community of 10 students going on the journey. Okay, but the impact of individual class would not be the same. Depends on your intellectual maturity, depends on your alertness, depends on my communication skill, depends on your mood that morning. So actually what ends up happening and then therefore dictates your journey or learning path will certainly fork out in different ways. Okay, so the learning philosophy, and so that's a little bit of what I want to talk about as the class. Okay, now, well, I wanted to do this kind of introduction, who am I, who are you, and so forth, in a face-to-face setting. But barring that, we'll settle with what we've got. We'll settle with what we got. Okay. So I think you can only I can talk about it. Okay. This kind of echoes the philosophy, right? It's my learning journey with path and fork. Okay. So, but formally, I can just show you, talk a little bit about CV. CV is like my professional history. So let's go to that. And well, basically there are 4 parts to this, right? First part is basically my education. So my first degree is actually in double major in physics and economics. I'll tell you why that's relevant to this class later. I did a Master of Science in Operations Research, and I did a Ph.D. And this is both of this in Case Western Reserve University in the United States. Then I went to Imperial College for computational intelligence and operations research. And there I was fortunate enough to hook up with Chemical Bank, TS Manhattan Bank, in a quant group. Basically, I was an intern for 2-3 years, I think. And the work on that became the basis of my thesis. So it was sort of like prop desk, what we today call algorithmic trading desk. Okay, so that I was working for an algo trading desk. That's the word we would use. But back then we didn't really like the word algo trading because that's a little bit it's a little bit accurate, but it's also not. We also did more than that. Okay, then spend most of my formative career with the Central Bank of Thailand. So I was an investment officer. So that was like invested in international reserve, right? The country's money, basically. Did my CFA. I developed. I started the bank's quantitative models and financial engineering, and then I went to SCB. And this is where I was first senior vice president of first of credit risk analytics, and then quantitative models and enterprise analytics. And this is when I recruited your TA, okay, who had been my kind of right-hand man for longest time. So I was basically when SCB went through the transformation into a digital platform, I was kind of like the first dedicated principal lead data scientist. Okay, then now I'm with Jula, so I kind of like to think of myself as semi-retired because I'm taking life a lot more at a relaxed pace. But it doesn't mean I don't work every day. I work every day, but I guess I'm professionally I'm kind of relaxed. So I basically I have a contract with Chulalongkorn's BASI program to look after the applied digital intelligence. I missed the word applied here, I think. Intelligence, and so I teach various things. Okay, and I'm a data scientist consultant, principal consultant for UOB Asset Management, and apart from quant finance, machine learning, data science, I'm really big into sufficiency, economy, philosophy, and sustainable development. And these are my online presence and so forth. So that's it. That's just a formal way of introduction. Okay, but that is not the fun part. The fun part is the learning part and the journey. Okay, and so let's say I'm going to say why physics. Okay, so that's my four. Why operations research? Why educational now? Well, I can tell you quickly. I can tell you why physics. Why physics was because when I was young, well, back then when we go to school, we turn on the radio, and on a car radio, back then politics news didn't really occupy the central part or of daily dialogues. So it was more diverse, and a lot of time the national radio would just say something like physicists from whatever university, or just physicists. Back then, maybe just physicists. I just heard the word physicists, not physics. Discovered this and that. So to me, heroes, physicists were heroes. Okay, they discovered things that you couldn't. Okay, so that's it. That's my aspiration from childhood. Now, when I was about, well, not about, when I was 14 or 15, I think, yeah, 15. Okay, 15. I left Thailand to go to the United States in a boarding school. I was enrolled in a boarding school, and but prior to the boarding school, I was like staying with my aunt, basically my father's friend from research years. And over the summer, I would be learning from this class English as a second language. I don't know, you probably have that today nowadays in most universities, like English as a second language class at university. I think it was St. Louis University. But what's really interesting is that at that time, I was studying in a room in a building, and on the side of the building, it says something like really funny. So there's something like School of Arts and Science. Yeah, and this was actually, oops. School of Arts and Science. Something like this, maybe like University SLU. In this building. And it was the first time that I kind of like got this idea that, wait a minute, why are we studying art and science together? Because I thought, in high school, if I were in high school, which my friends were still in high school, we would be going into a science track and art track. in the old days, like 2 science track. There's like in Thailand, I think, in my friends, Thailand, in okay, science without biology, and science with biology, and then arts with math, and then arts without. Yeah, that's basically what my friend. So to me, science and art was very different, right? So you have something like this, okay? So that was kind of like I was used to. Okay, so that was kind of like intriguing. Okay, and from there on to today, until I've been working professionally, as you can see, for all my life. But I've been teaching. When I was in the Bank of Thailand, SCB, I was teaching. I've been teaching. Well, I was teaching when I was a student. So when I was a master's student, I was teaching undergrad. When I was a PhD student, I was teaching master and so forth. So I've been teaching pretty much all my life, but in a way, I never really pursued academic degrees. And most of the university, I was just like a guest lecturer. The only difference is this place where you are. Okay, so this is Basai. It's sort of like many years later. Then you have Chulalongkorn, right? Basai. Right. So that's kind of like interesting, right? This is very interesting. This is how Basai really intrigued me. Anyway, what I want you to take away is that Basai, okay, if you think about Basai as a production engine, okay, input, what's input? What's input? Well, you obviously use input, but beside from you, what is Basai's input? Art and science. What's output? Integrated technology. Okay. So in other words, the philosophy of the whole school here is that you need both. You need both art and science. Okay. And this is really the crux of this class. You are learning about emerging technology. Where does emerging technology come from? Who's the mother? A technology is a child. Who's the mother? Science. Right? Right? But science alone, to become technologies and in a way lead to innovation, this is where you need the integration of the art side and the science side. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so maybe I would put this under philosophy. Yeah. Today, example. Okay, art, economics, science, okay. It's only when today put together do you get innovation in the form of, say, bioplastic. Okay, today's example, but we'll come back to that, okay? Because That's part 3 of the lecture. That's today's lecture. Okay, so that's interesting. That's my journey. Yeah, that's my journey. Now, so high school. Oops. Okay. So why physics? We already talked about why physics. Okay. There's another reason, by the way, why physics. Okay. When I was in high school, again, I was studying whatever, calculus. So to me, I obviously study physics because not only what was that the subject of my heroes, it sounds a little bit silly, but it's sort of like a very manly subject for me. So I studied, so I went, I focused on physics because it was very manly kind of thing. Anyway, my aunt that I stayed with, she actually is a publication director at Washington University's physics department. Well, the significance of that was that while I was waiting for her, you know, say during the summer or whatever, she would just drop me off and let me spend time doing homework or whatever in the physics library. Okay, because you know she didn't want to babysit me, right? And I was supposed to be so in order to keep me sort of like not stray, I guess she just sort of like left me at the physics library. The idea was this: because I got bored with my homework, I just walked around and I picked up random books. Picked up a book randomly, completely by random, and I just opened. And what struck me was a lot of Greek letters. Okay, if you turn on, you open any physics book today, you see a lot of Greek letters. I didn't understand a word of it. I didn't understand a word of it. So at this point, let me ask you. Okay, you don't have to answer me, but answer yourself. What would be your instinct? What's your response to opening up something completely incomprehensible to you? Okay. Well, let's say you open any books and say, okay, this is special relativity, and say this is a collected paper of Einstein, and well, I put randomly, so it wasn't Einstein's book, but let's say. Anyway, if you open any textbook, you see something incomprehensible. My instinct was this. My instinct was that this was a book written by a human being. So it's meant to have an audience. So somebody wrote it with the intention of other people reading it. So it was meant to be understood. If something that's meant to be understood by human beings was not understood by me, it was incomprehensible by me, I only made one conclusion. I didn't have the language to understand it. So to me, it just sort of like occurs to me as a, well, today you have TikTok challenge, right? I had a sort of like epiphany, like a challenge to myself. If this was written by human being for human beings, how come I didn't understand it? Well, I didn't have the language. I understood English. I didn't understand Greek. And moreover, it was not Greek. It was mathematical equations. So certainly it was something about that say, well, I have to really get to a point where I understand it. Now, it was by luck. Well, by circumstance, it was a physics library, not a biochemical library, okay? Biochemistry library. It was physics library. So the idea was that I wanted to learn, okay? And what else? When I went to college, I wanted to learn, you know, this is when I embraced the whole art and science thing. And this was called liberal arts education, okay? Liberal arts education, liberal arts education. The university I went to was a combination, literally, of arts and science. It was sort of like a Case Institute technology plus Western reserve policy. Okay, so this is the science. So this is the arts. You combine this and okay. Okay. So literally, this bit here is my physics, and this bit here is my economics. But the fun thing about economics was that, it was not just to say, well, I'm in the School of Art and Science, so let's learn not just science, but also art. The reason I study economics is very simple. It came down to about 5 pages of introduction. 4, 5 pages. Introductory chapter in a text book. Pick up, use book. You guys know what a flea market is? Probably not. In Thailand, there's no flea market, but in Western culture, it's a tradition that intellectual students would go to a flea market. Just use books, flea market. Okay, so it came down to that. I was inspired by the fact that it sought to explain things that you didn't understand about what happens in the world, basically. So my inspiration for physics and economics, what's the gist of this? Okay. Has nothing to do with career. Okay. In fact, I came very close. Philosophy. Okay. In fact, I did have that as well. Okay, but I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, but basically, I came very close to majoring in philosophy. My father, who has a Ph.D. in electrical engineering and was a Korean Navy person, so very, very, very practical person, already green lighted me. Okay, I was already green lighted. Okay. Now, what's so cool about my father was this. He said to me, okay, he saw some writing that I wrote, is a little bit more philosophical, conceptual. He told me, he said, if you liked philosophy, if you love philosophy, and you wanted to major in philosophy, go ahead. Don't worry about getting a job. Maybe he would find me a job. But he literally gave me that green light. So I want to bring this up because I bet this is the opposite of 99% of parents, Basai parents I've talked to. 99%, well, not 99 because I haven't talked to 100, but I would say 9 out of 10 parents, Basai parents I could talk to would say, how is Basai going to get me my child, my son, my daughter a job? Okay, so this is a sort of intellectual freedom that I enjoy from my dad. Okay, so he already green lighted me. He said, study philosophy if you want. Now, I'll tell you why I didn't study philosophy, because I came back to Thailand and started reading Buddhism, and I thought Western philosophy is a little bit of shooting fish in a barrel. You start with a set of axioms, and then you just sort of like make argument within that. A lot of it by deduction. So it didn't really, after a while, I just got lost interest in Western philosophy. In the meantime, physics was getting more interesting with quantum mechanics and particle physics and so forth. So I decided against majoring in philosophy. Not my parents. My parents already green lighted me and said, if you want to study philosophy, go ahead. Don't worry about getting a job. Again, I think 9 out of 10 Basai parents would not say that. Okay? And I have jobs all my life. And in fact, I'm able to get jobs in so many areas that I want. Once I want this area, I get a job in this area. So job is not a problem. Okay. Maybe a high-paying job would be a problem, but certainly a job. So that's my journey. But why operations research? And this is an interesting story. Okay, and today it's about getting to know each other. So don't worry about picking up anything. The reason, okay, I just ran into a guy from, I think it's Venezuela. Now, there are two countries that I kind of got confused at that time. Because I was an undergraduate, during the winter, the undergraduate dorm would close because most students are from the United States. So over the holidays, they go home. So they closed the undergraduate dorm. So we have to migrate temporarily to graduate student, master and PhD student, because then we have, like international student. So it's sort of like master students who came all the way to study this thing, operation research. So that sort of like got me thinking. Yeah. Why would a guy come all the way to do this? And it has a very rich history, okay? Rich history from World War II. The defense of the British House. Okay? So let's go to YouTube, okay? And search something. Operations Research World War II. Origin story, World War management. Okay. Anyway, I'll tell you a story. Okay. The story was very easy. It looks like this. Okay. This is you guys vacation to England, right? So this is it's not writing. Okay. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Oops. Let's make it really thick. And let's make it blue and really thick. Okay. So this is sort of like maybe the sorry. Upside down. Oops. Okay. Where am I? Where's my pen? Okay. So this is oops. Okay. So this is sort of like the coast of England, and this is France. Okay, France is down here. Okay, France is down here. The idea is this: you have a bunch of airplanes coming here. Okay, and this is a Luftwaffe. This is basically Nazi Germany trying to bomb England, right? And England has a very sensitive part here. This is the River Thames. This is London. And basically the coast goes up even further. Okay, so maybe I should. Okay, well, the idea is this: back then they have what's called a radar. Radar scans the sky, except it can only scan the sky in small little batch. So imagine that back then you have 40 capability to put 40 of these little scanners. So you can put here, you can put here, well, that's not, so forth. The idea is that how can you put in the geography So like XY coordinate, put one here, one here, one here, two here, so that it maximizes the coverage. Because you don't want the radar to overlap and you don't want there to be gaps, right? So this placement becomes a problem of how to place 40 or so radar installation to maximize coverage of southeast tip of the Britain. Huh? That was the question. That was the question. And that was done mathematically. That was mathematically done. Okay? So it becomes maximize some kind of F X, where F degree cover, and then X placement location. Okay? Subject to, so maximize subject, maximize some objective, subject to constraint. Okay? So that becomes the mathematical problem. So even not knowing anything, I was intrigued. So I studied that. It turns out it gave me a lifetime of understanding problem solving. I did not know on that day that I would be considered Thailand's expert in risk management. Today, you know, you can go to a risk management forum and, you know, ask who really knows about risk management, right? Today, I would be considered, you know, well, maybe not, not lately, but certainly when I was working active in the banking industry or Bank of Thailand, I was one of the top experts in risk management. How did I lead that? I did not. I did not know that the problem in World War II, okay, would somehow be the most important problem in risk, in financial risk management. Okay, so in other words, how to allocate investment among 400 stock in stock exchange of Thailand. That is maximize return subject to acceptable risk, or minimize risk subject to acceptable return. Okay? So this problem in World War II that I, again, studied because I was intrigued, not because I wanted to get a job, not because I wanted to get, ended up making me the expert in financial risk management. You know, maybe not today, maybe there's the technology's gone on, but at one point, certainly. Okay? So again, the lesson here is that don't chase after a job, guys. Don't chase after a job. And why computational intelligence? There's another story. During OR class, often too many OR separation class begins with assuming convex solution. That's it. That's the reason. Too many. What's a convex space? Okay, let's go to picture again. Convex space. This is convex space. Okay, what's not convex space? This is not convex space. Okay, a convex apple is a convex space. Banana is not a convex space. What it means is that if you search over something here, okay, you can take any straight line and you'll be okay. Let me put it this way. If you have a convex space, you have two starting solutions. You can always find another solution by taking some kind of combination in between. Oops, it's a straight line in between. If you don't have a convex space, you have a solution here, you don't have a solution here, and you try to combine solution, and no can do. Okay, no can do. This is the constraint set. So what happened is during my master class, so many classes start with this. So I started to question, what if you want to generalize? Okay, got me obsessed with generalization. Potential. Okay, of any. Okay, and that led me to study what's called artificial neural network. Okay? Now, today is a day of stories, so I'll give you a funny story. Funny story is, while I was in a master's student now. I think maybe the last year of my undergraduate, I was taking master's class, and it could also be my proper master years. I was kind of unhappy. I was unhappy here. So it got me obsessed with the idea of generalization of mathematical conception, i.e. minimal assumption on the solution. And that got me to study things that are more approximate. So it got me to the idea of artificial neural network. Now, fortunately, it was really by chance. I was getting coffee and ho-hos. I don't know, you guys have, you don't have the ho-hos here? That's a little bit. What's that? Ho-hos. Ah, there it is. That's my favorite snacks from my master years. I was getting my ho-hos and coffee when an older gentleman was getting a coffee, and he dropped a book, and the book he dropped was yeah, he dropped this book. He dropped this book. Oops. Yeah, he dropped this book. Okay, so because I was nice, so I bent down and picked it up, and I handed it over to this older gentleman, and I noticed this word, neural network, adaptive pattern recognition. So I said, so you like neural network too? I'm kind of like getting interested in the neural networks. So this older gentleman points to the author's name, and he said, well, that's me. That's me. So that really threw me off operation research. In my last term in the United States, I enrolled in his class. And when I got the scholarship from the Bank of Thailand, I just booked my way to study neural network. And that's how I ended up, I think, in Imperial College. Okay. So again, why computational intelligence? Well, computational intelligence has three components. Neural network, evolutionary algorithm or genetic algorithm, and fuzzy. Yeah. So basically this bit was how I ended up studying computational intelligence. Now my PhD Weirdly enough, it's not neural network. Why? Why? EA not AN. Because at chemical bank quantitative research Vice President Christian Mies put this. Huh? I show him a very good 97% accurate ANN model for predicting currency. And I showed him this. Very good, very accurate model for predicting effects. And then he said, useless. Essentially, he said it's useless. Huh? He said this. Anybody wants to guess why? No, you probably won't be able to guess. I couldn't either. Well, it turns out that the 3%, I was predicting level. The 3%, because the error big enough to swamp what's called bid-ask spread. Okay. What's a bid-ask spread? Anybody? Bid-ask spread. There. When you get the price, well, let's go to FX desk. Let's go to FX today. Okay. You get actually two prices, the price you buy and the price you sell. Okay. So if you buy a dollar, okay, so if say today's dollars, okay, so buy dollar using 33. Okay, if you sell, okay, if you buy dollar using 33 Thai baht, okay, and you sell you don't get 33 baht, you get 32. Actually, it's not that dramatic, okay? Basically, this is a tiny fraction, okay? Now, in the currency I was trading, it would differ by 4th digit. So it could be something like 33.55 and then 33.45, okay? Apparently, this thing, okay? Say something like that, okay? Now, this is not dramatic because if you do a calculation, right? It's not much. It's not much. It's only, the point is that that difference here is smaller than 3% in the currency I was trading. So, because of that, so I turn, yeah, never mind, you don't know what GA is, but. So this here is the first time I changed my intellectual pursuit motivated by real job. Okay, real job. I was already a PhD student. So unlike many of you, you know, from high school who are pressured to select education program based on job. I was already a PhD student looking for my thesis when this was the first real job question that motivates my study. But I didn't just study it just for that. I studied for a more in-depth research. Okay, but anyway, so from high school all the way to PhD, this is the first time anything approaching job requirement enter my heart, enter my sphere of consciousness. Okay, and I've been one of the most prolific professional model builders in my career. So the lesson of it is, don't try to be practical too early. If you try to be practical too early, you will not be practical beyond the first couple of years. And that gets to the philosophy of Basai. Don't want on practicality. Don't want students at Basai graduate to be ready to work on day one. Only to be outdated. Okay. Okay. If you focus so much on individual technique that you think that, you know, I want to be a, you know, what's a hot job today? Hot job today is data science, right? I'm a principal data scientist, I know, okay? There's a lot of things to be done. But if you say, okay, I'm gonna train for that because that's a hot job today, I can't guarantee that it's gonna be a hot job in 2 years' time. Never mind 5 years' time, okay? There could be something else. Could be something else. Maybe it is a higher version of data science, maybe, but maybe not, okay? So keep that in mind. So that's the philosophy of Basai, okay? So my whole thing, okay, I'm required to give you a little bit of my background, but that's a formal background, but that's not the juicy story. The juicy story is my what? My path and my fall, how I turned left, how I turned right, how I was studying operations research, but I turned to neural network, how I was studying neural network, turned to GA, which you don't know about yet. I'll tell you about it later. So all this is motivated, most of all, by my love of knowledge, my inquisitiveness. So the lesson is, if you really are inspired to learn, you will become so good at it. At some point, people will pay you a lot of money to do this, and not so many people will be able to do it. Okay? So I'm not trying to use money to motivate you guys, okay? Because again, none of this I make a lot of money from data science, but data science came from my understanding of neural network, came from my understanding of computational intelligence, came from my understanding of G, and so came from my understanding of physics. None of this was motivated by making money. or getting a job even. Remember, my father said, don't worry about getting a job. So he was happy that I would not get any job. So the irony is I made so much money from subject that I study, not motivated by making money at all. Okay, if I was motivated by money, it would make sense. I'd probably go to business school or something. Okay, and I'd be one among millions of people who study business. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, so I want to spend a bit of you. Okay, a bit of you. Now, we can pause a video here for say 3-4 minutes to get a bathroom break, and then we can come back. And I want each of you to go this: academic background, research interest, and I don't mean research. You get the idea that, well, I must have done some academic research in my portfolio. No, literally means things that you would Google. I consider that research. Okay, and some kind of aspiration. Okay, so aspiration could be about the topic or about how you see yourself. You see yourself as innovator, real innovator, or early adopter. Okay, and innovation or invention, some people want to be at the early stream, basically inventor. By the way, sad life is inventors don't make money. First innovators don't make money. I think it's about a third and a fourth innovators. In every area, people who make money are the third or fourth innovators. Okay? So Facebook is not an innovator in social network. Okay? It's about second or third, maybe. Okay? But you learn from the failure of the earlier one and then you incorporate it. Same with iPhone, same with whatever. Okay, so occasionally the first innovator makes money, but usually it's about second or third or fourth innovators and not inventor. Okay, in the Victorian time, yes. In the Victorian time, yes. Sometimes you can invent something and makes a lot of money, but even then, a lot of inventor in Victorian times didn't make any money. Okay, but so I want you to prepare. I'm going to go one by one, here, 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 and then you can talk a little bit about your expectation here as well. Okay, so let's pause the video, take a 3 minutes break, and then we'll come back. Okay, ครับ